Welcome to this Arnold Culliford tutorial for modern daily knitting on seaming the diagonal mitts. This tutorial is part of a series to accompany the patterns in MDK Field Guide number 18, Beginnings. All of the patterns in this field guide have been designed by the fantastic Karida Collins, and these are the diagonal mitts. The diagonal mitts are a really great introduction to seaming your knitting or sewing up your project when it's complete. The first thing you need to do is decide how you want your finished mitts to be. The mitts are going to be created by folding and seaming the edge, leaving a gap for the thumb, and this gives this lovely diagonal finish to the mitts. And you need to decide whether you want that diagonal to go both in the same direction on your mitts or whether you want them to mirror each other. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So you added a locking stitch marker at the beginning of a right side row at the start of your mitts, and you want first of all to arrange that so that it's at the start of the row. So that means it's slightly up this edge. That means that this is the right side of your work, and this is the side you're going to have on the outside. Obviously it's garter stitch, so it's basically reversible, but we're going to denote that as the right side. So you're then going to fold your mittens so that the marker is on the right side in the lower right hand corner. Okay, so that's like that. So we're still on the right side and we've just tucked it underneath. That gives them in one direction. And if we do them both like that, they're both folded the same way. When we turn the second mitt over, you can see that the diagonal is always going that way. So that's if you want them both to be the same. Alternatively, with the second one, so we've got it with the right side up and the markers here. If you turn it through 90 degrees and now fold it over so that the right side stays outermost, you've now got the marker at the bottom left corner, and that gives us nice mirrored diagonals. So you just have to make a choice as to which way round you want it, whether you want them both the same or mirrored. In order to show you the seaming process, I'm using a swatch knitted in thicker, lighter coloured yarn so that you can see exactly what's going on. And the first thing I've done is I've threaded the tail that I put to one side when I was starting onto a tapestry needle. Because of the way in which this has been knitted, there should be the same number of rows on the right and left hand sides of the knitting, and that makes this seaming particularly straightforward to do because it just means we need to match up the ends of these garter stitch ridges on each side, and everything should match up perfectly and you shouldn't end up with your mitt going skew-off. The first job is going to be to secure the bottom corners together. So we've got the tail coming out of the bottom corner here, and the first thing we're going to do is to work out exactly where that corner is on the other side, and I think that it's here. Okay, that's my longest corner of my longest row, and I'm just hooking the tapestry needle under the edge of that garter stitch ridge there. So I've gone from bottom to top just through that ridge, and I'm going to come back up on the other side at that same corner where the yarn started. Okay, so I've gone under a ridge on both sides of the fabric and I've pulled it nice and secure. Because this is the bottom corner edge, it's obviously where there will be a little bit of tension on the project. And then I'm going to take out my locking stitch marker because it's done its job of telling me which way round my mitten was. And now as I work my way up the edge of the mitt, I'm going to be really consistent about how I go into each side of the project, because really with seaming, consistency is the key. As I said before, we're going to be matching up the edges of these garter stitch ridges with the edges on the other side. And having had a little look up the edge here, can you see how each ridge kind of swoops up to the left? And I think I'm going to go through that purl bump at the swoop up point. It's the kind of frown side of there's the smile side of the ridge, and here's the frown side. So I'm going to choose that frown side on the right hand edge. So I'm going to go up through there, and I'm going to go up through that point on each of the garter ridges. I'm now having a look on the other side at the garter ridges, and I think I'm going to do it in exactly the same way on this side. So here's my first garter ridge on this side, and there's my smile, and here's my frown. Have you ever heard them called that? It's a recent one on me, but it makes sense to me. So I'm going to go through the frown on that edge as well. Okay, and that's all I'm going to do as I go along the edge. So next ridge up, there's the frown at the end of that ridge, and I'm just going to go under just the frown bit, and then I'm going to find the one on the other side and go under the frown bit there. I've continued to sew together the ends of the garter ridges along both sides of the mitt, and I'm now ready to fasten off for my thumb opening. And the first thing I'm going to do before I fasten off is just give the work a bit of a tug, make sure that it's not pulled too tight so that the length is being squished in. Just giving it a little tug, make sure that the tension is fine, which it is. So we're now here, and we've just come out of the garter ridge on this side, and all I'm going to do is very straightforward. I'm just going to go round on the spot at that point. So I've put the needle through both sides of the fabric, totally level with each other. Boom. And again. Boom. This is just to add a little bit of extra strength at the edge of that thumb opening, because again, that's the kind of like a tension point where your thumb's coming out. It is going to stretch the fabric a bit. So if you give it a nice little couple of stitches, you could do a third if you wanted to. I'm going to leave it there. I'm just going to pop the tapestry needle back down through the work on the far side. And now I'm going to weave the end in. I've just turned the knitting inside out here. Here's my end where it's come through the fabric, and I'm now just going to weave it in. And the way I like to weave in on garter stitch involves going along a garter ridge up and down, and then I'll come back in the opposite direction just to really anchor the end. So I'm just going to go under that smile side of the ridge and then back up through the next one, and then down through the next smile and up through the one after, and we can go all the way along the ridge, just going up and down one side of the ridge. So that's how it's looking. Pull it through, and now I'm going to take it back in the other direction. And just by going through 180 degrees and changing direction, we just really anchor that thread in. It's not going to come undone now. And again, give it a little tug. And then it's my standard top tip for weaving in ends. Don't cut it too tight to the fabric. If you cut it close to the fabric, the chances are that end, as the project moves around, is going to wiggle its way through to the right side. Whereas if you leave it with a little tab like that, that end isn't going to pop through and show on the right side of the fabric. In order to complete our mitt, we're going to do the exact same thing from the other end now. So my tail from my fastening off is here. I'm going to go through the very corner on the other side and back up through the corner on the first side, just to give that edge a little bit of extra strength. And now when I'm matching up my ridges, because we're looking at the fabric from the other way up, I'm now going to be going through the smile side of the stitch at the edges. So I've gone through both sides there. And now on the next one, that one there and that one there. And again, give it a little tug to make sure that the tension, you're happy with it. And then when you come to the point where you want to finish your opening, then as we did before, we're just going to go down through the fabric and back up again on the other side, just to make almost like a bar tack in sewing. And we're going to go around there once. And again. So that that opening is secured firmly at both ends. And then we're going to come back down through the fabric to the wrong side, and we're going to repeat that weaving in process that I showed you before to weave in that second end. And there you have a really neatly seamed mitt. And here are my finished seamed mittens. Here's the second one. I chose to go for the mirrored option, so the diagonals on my two hands go in mirroring directions. Isn't that a great little project? These were the diagonal mitts from Modern Daily Knitting's Field Guide number 18, Beginnings, and they're designed by Karida Collins. I hope that's given you lots of confidence in seaming your diagonal mitts. It's a great technique for blanket squares as well. We have lots more tutorials, hints and tips to help you in your knitting. If you click the link up top here, it will take you over to our website and you can go and explore. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel with the button in the bottom right hand corner, and then you'll be sure not to miss our next video tutorial. Thanks ever so much for watching. Bye bye.